Hello everyone and welcome to Doha, the capital city of Qatar. Sydney and I have spent the last 4 days exploring Doha, and we have learned so much about this city and about this country. And we really wanted to share with you some of our first impressions. If Qatar is a place that you're thinking about traveling, this is definitely the video for you. This is going to be our first impressions of Qatar, along with some really important things to know before you get here, and of course, what to expect once you're here. So just a little bit of background on the country of Qatar. It's a relatively young country, gaining independence in 1971 from the British Protectorate. It's located in the Arabian Gulf. It's north of the UAE and south of Bahrain. It actually is its own little peninsula that juts out into the Gulf. In recent news, it was made world famous for hosting the FIFA World Cup in 2022. That was a monumental event for the city of Doha, for the country of Qatar, and was really an opportunity for them to kind of showcase how much this country has developed on a world stage and show everyone. Because even I have to admit, like before the World Cup, I didn't know too much about Qatar. I just had a marginal knowledge of where it was, didn't know anything about it, and I had no idea that it looked like that. The country's population is around 2.8 million, but a large portion of that population is right here in the capital city of Doha. Doha is the only major city in Qatar, and that's why so many people live here and such a large portion of the Qatari population is here. This country has developed so fast at just an incredibly rapid pace. And of course, that is because of the natural resources in this country. The gigantic oil reserves and gas reserves has made this one of the wealthiest countries in the world, which is really interesting considering how small it is. Last year, Sydney and I visited Luxembourg, which is considered the wealthiest country in the world, another small country. It really is fascinating how that can happen, and especially for a place like Qatar, it happens so fast. The city of Doha has developed at an almost mind-bending pace. It's unbelievable how fast this city has developed. It is perhaps the most futuristic looking skyline I have ever seen in my entire life. It was really cool being in Dubai and seeing the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, but I have to say, I think Doha's skyline is better than Dubai's because it's just more compact, and when this thing lights up at night, all of the colors, they're just bright greens and reds and oranges and yellows. It is an absolute spectacle, and you cannot come to Doha without seeing the West Bay skyline at night. So a very important thing to know about Qatar if you are thinking about visiting, it's probably a good idea to avoid visiting in the summer months. June, July, August, September, it is just oppressively hot here, to the point where it's not even really comfortable to be outside for more than a couple minutes. Now, because of that, there is a lot of infrastructure here that is indoors and air conditioned, whether it's the malls or the metro or just the restaurants around town. But even if your destination is just a 3 or 4 minute walk away from your hotel or wherever you are, that little amount of time outside in that heat is absolutely gonna wipe you out. Even now in the winter months, I think it's hot. It's like 86 degrees right now Fahrenheit, and the sun is just setting. That is crazy to be that hot with the sun down. But for them, that's nothing. It can get to 125 degrees Fahrenheit, around 50 degrees Celsius in the summer months. So it is definitely a good idea to avoid those summer months if you're not used to that desert heat. Another very important thing to keep in mind if you are coming to Qatar is that this is an Islamic country, so dressing modestly is always advised. In fact, it is mandatory when you're in public places. Now, I do feel like the media and a lot of things you read online are just a little bit bombastic about this point. Yes, there is some Islamic Sharia law observed here, and yes, it is a predominantly Islamic country. But with that said, it is also a very international place and a very open-minded place. When it comes to those kind of laws, those kind of rules, common sense is your best friend. There's absolutely nothing wrong with wearing shorts here, wearing a t-shirt. There's no requirement for women to wear hijab or any kind of head covering unless you're in a holy place like a mosque. But just be smart, be observant, and make sure that you're following those rules. It's important as visitors to another country, another culture, that we respect the way of life here. And for us, that has not been an issue at all to observe those rules and those guidelines. Just do your research on that. Make sure you're not wearing anything too crazy. You know, we all know, we can all picture it. Just don't wear things that are very revealing in public. Shorts are absolutely fine, t-shirts are absolutely fine. Now let's talk about the prices here in Qatar. Surprisingly, the prices are not that bad. You would think for one of the world's wealthiest countries that it would be really expensive. Now don't get me wrong, if you do want to stay in the 5-star hotels and go to the nice restaurants, you will be paying an arm and a leg for that. But if you are just a humble traveler like us, and you're just looking to experience the city and experience the culture, you can do that at a very, very affordable price. I found it to be far less expensive than Dubai, and probably even less expensive than Abu Dhabi as well. Now, as for getting around, the taxis are pretty affordable here, but they just built a brand new metro system that was actually designed specifically for the World Cup. We are the only people in this metro station right now. So far, it's been really interesting. Everything's so pristine. That airport is beautiful. And so far, we're really impressed with the infrastructure for the metro. But as we're getting ready to head to the hotel, I think we've seen like 4 people. I don't know if it's a holiday or something, but there's no one anywhere. So the stops on the metro go to all of the important places within the city, and then of course all of the different stadiums that were built for the World Cup. And I can't recommend enough taking this metro. It is immaculate. It is so nice. All of the stations are so nice, and it is incredibly cheap. One ride on the metro will cost you 2 Qatari riyals, which is around 60 cents a ride. Actually, not even. It's incredibly, incredibly affordable. Now, one of the most interesting discoveries about Qatar for me is that it seems like a lot of this infrastructure has been built around the World Cup, obviously, but just in general, it's almost exceeding what the population is right now. Do you know what I mean? So like the metro is not very crowded at most times, and it just seems like, you know, for a population of around 1 million, 1.5 million people, this looks like a major, major city. And I think the infrastructure has almost preceded the people coming here. And I think that's just starting to happen. And it's becoming so international. Similar to the UAE, there's a lot of South Asian people that come here. Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Nepali. It's really cool to see that. And on top of that, I've even seen people from England, from Ireland, from Germany. So I think the international factor, especially here in Doha, is happening very fast. And it's gonna be really exciting to see what this city looks like even in 10 or 20 years. Because think about that. I mean, all of this happened so fast. If you look at pictures of Doha in like 1995, it looks nothing like this. So this is basically happened at warp speed. And I imagine that it's just gonna keep on happening as long as the oil is pumping. So it's gonna be interesting to see how far this goes and what the city is gonna look like in 2050, 2040. And I think it's very likely that a lot more people move here before it's all said and done. Another thing that's really important to mention, if you are trying to have a more affordable experience here in Qatar, Qatar Airways has this really interesting offer where you can take an international flight here and then have a stopover, like an extended layover here in the city of Doha. And they'll actually pay for a portion of your hotel, and it's a pretty large portion. You almost get the hotel for free and just have to kind of pay the fees. But I think that's an absolutely incredible offer, and it's usually for people that are coming internationally and then they're gonna go somewhere else. So they just spend 2 or 3 days here in Doha as an extended layover. Sydney and I were not able to qualify for that program because we took such a short flight from Abu Dhabi here. So that's why I'm saying I think it's a little bit more catered to like the longer flights. So that's how Qatar Airways gets their money, is the long flight, and they don't mind paying the hotel expenses. But that's just yet another example with like the World Cup, and they're hosting an expo here. There's a big effort to try to make this a tourist destination. So Qatar Airways has been a big part of that, just trying to bring people in, people that normally wouldn't visit Doha. Why wouldn't you spend 2 or 3 days here when you're getting your hotel paid for? So that's definitely something to look into if you're interested in visiting Qatar. So the big question, what should you do? What should you see when you're here in Doha? Well, the big things are gonna be the Souq Waqif, the West Bay skyline, and if you want to do some sort of desert safari experience, I would say those 3 things are the absolute can't miss. There's a lot more to do here. There's a lot of really interesting food to try. Majboos is really interesting. There's a lot of biryani, a lot of interesting Arabic desserts. The coffee is really good here, the Arabic coffee. There's definitely a lot to try and definitely a lot to check out. And lastly, before I forget, as far as the languages spoken here, the main language is Arabic, but there is also a lot of English because of the fact that it's so international. So when you're going on the metro, or if you want to rent a car and you're driving, you will see English on a lot of the signs and just a lot of the infrastructure around. There's a lot of English spoken here. And I mentioned, you know, the prominent South Asian movement over to this area. When those people come over, they don't speak Urdu, they don't speak Hindi, they speak English to the people that speak Arabic. So English has become almost the second unofficial language, and if you speak English, you will have no trouble here in Doha whatsoever. I had my sunglasses on so long, I didn't even realize it's starting to get dark out. It's gonna be really cool to see the skyline lit up. I'm really excited for that. Back to the things to do. So the Souq Waqif, that's kind of like the old town of Doha. It gives you a really interesting kind of window into the past to see what Doha might have looked like even 50 or 60 years ago, but obviously going way further back than that. This was a big trading outpost, so you're gonna see a lot of shops. You're gonna see a lot of like spice markets and things like that. We're really excited to go back to the Souq Waqif later tonight. Just kind of comparing Doha to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, that's something that I've really liked, is that it seems like there was more of an effort to preserve the old part of the city, whereas Dubai and Abu Dhabi just feel like a modern US city essentially, with all the skyscrapers and traffic and everything. But here in Doha, you have the old and the new, which I think is really fascinating. And then also getting out on a boat never hurts. They have these really cool old style wooden boats. Here, I'll turn the camera around. As I've been recording this, I've been passing a lot of the boats, starting to take people out. So that's a really great way to take in the West Bay skyline from the water. That's really all I can think of. If you have any additional questions about what to know before getting here, or just any information on Qatar in general, we'll definitely try to help you out. We're by no means experts, just being here for 3.5 days. But I will say that this is a place that I already feel like I want to come back to and see more of. So I'm really excited to see how different it is the next time we're here. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, likes and subscribers go a long way for us. We really appreciate them. And we hope you enjoy your visit to Qatar like we did.